Hi, friends. All right. Tell me I'm not the only one who used to think window clings were the absolute bee's knees as a kid. Every smooth surface was fair game. Well, guess what? I found a kit on Amazon that lets you make your own window clings, and today we're going to test it out together. I haven't actually tried this before, so we're just going to see if it's cute, or if it's chaos, or maybe a little bit of both. I actually ordered this back in November during their Black Friday sale, but it is still available on Amazon for around $29. This is actually how it came. It didn't come in a box or anything. But in here we have black liquid leading, and then the actual paint in ruby red, aqua, cocoa brown, sunny yellow, snow white, and lime green. The kit also came with instructions, obviously, and some patterns. We have everyday patterns, spring patterns, summer, fall, and winter patterns. After I was thinking about it, I have actually used this gallery glass paint before to decorate this mirror that I have. I think I did it like 15, 20 years ago maybe, but I've never used this stuff with the intention of removing it and making something reusable. So this will be new to me. Alright, first let's try out this liquid leading. Is that how you say it? Leading? It can't be leading, that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I do have a really old bottle of this because I never throw anything away, and I used that bottle to make some sun catchers in a video a while back, and I remember it being pretty clumpy to use, so it was probably too old. But now that I think about it, is sun catcher paint and gallery glass paint just the same thing? Anyway, the instructions say that when I'm doing the leading, I shouldn't touch the actual tip of the bottle to the surface. I should just squeeze out a bead and then sort of lay it down. That seems easier said than done. The first line is really uneven, so maybe I'm squeezing it too fast. Let me slow it down. Okay, that's actually better. Also, the instructions say to hold it like a broom, but I don't really understand what that means, because I hold a broom with two hands. I wonder if I can use a toothpick to kind of rake through it and even it out a little bit. Okay, it's not perfect, but the leading is runny enough that I can move it around and it seems to just resettle itself. So that other bottle was definitely too old. Alright, now let's pick a pattern. I don't need winter or fall, even though I love Halloween. And I'm definitely going to do this strawberry and this rainbow. The thing that sort of stinks is these patterns are printed on both sides of the paper, so if I want to do multiple ones without waiting days for it to dry, I'm going to have to go make a photocopy. Alright, I'm going to tape and clamp these down to hard surfaces because the paper isn't laying flat, and then I'm going to use plastic as my backing. The instructions in the kit recommend some product of gallery glasses to create on, but of course that doesn't come with the kit. So I read a bunch of different blogs, and they say that you can use plastic from Ziploc bags if you want to make something that's just going to peel right off. So I'm just using the bags that the paint actually came in, cut apart. I'm trying to get this down as flat and as taut as I can so that it doesn't come out all wrinkly. And I'm going to try and do this little strawberry first. Ooh, that's a mess. Let me try to clean up this spot right here. I read that you can use Q-tips to clean up while it's still wet, but I don't have Q-tips near me, so I'm just going to use this silicone stir stick. Then I'm going to use my toothpick method to try to even all of the lines out. Then let's move on to the skate. I'm trying to go a little slower to make the lines more even. Oh, these wheels are atrocious though. Then I used the toothpick on the whole thing and slid the paper out and set it aside to dry overnight. I don't really feel ready to stop though, so let's also do this rainbow and this disco ball, because I love me a good disco ball. I set all of those aside, and then I want to try one more thing. So I looked everywhere and couldn't find a single mention of wax paper and whether it would work or not, but it makes sense to me that it would work because it's smooth, so you would think that stuff would peel right off of it really well. So now, if anyone is looking, we will have an answer on whether wax paper works or not. And yes, I photocopied the giant sheet into a couple of smaller sheets and taped it together, because my photocopier wasn't big enough. So we're gonna do this dog and this cat. I'm not the most precise with this squeezy method, so I did skip some of the more intricate lines, like around the dog's eyes. And the lead is leaving a lot more blank spots where like the bead of lead just sort of stops and starts. And by this point, my hands are getting pretty tired of squeezing, so I'm not actually sure if it's the wax paper causing the issue or if I'm just not squeezing consistently enough. I did use the toothpick to clean a lot of it up, but my fixing is actually causing a few more mistakes along the edge. I also read that I can just sort of peel this up and trim once it's dry, so we'll see. Alright, it's 2 days later and everything is dry. It actually should be dry after 24 hours, but I got busy. Anyway, you can see some of the wrinkles from the plastic, but otherwise there's no major changes. I am going to see if I can actually fix these mess ups by gently peeling just a portion of the line and trimming it. I'm not sure there's much I can do for this mess on the strawberry though. Alright, for the paint, the instructions say to squeeze the paint into the design, going around the perimeter first and then filling in the rest. I guess we want to use the leading as a bumper and make sure to apply the paint onto the leading, because otherwise we'll get light holes, whatever those are. Then the paint needs to fill to the level of the leading line, which my lines are kind of flattened now, probably because of all of my toothpicking. But I'm going to do more toothpicking with the paint because the instructions said to. It says to comb back and forth in straight lines to smooth the texture and pop bubbles. The instructions said that the paint will not show on top of the leading when it's cured, and we're definitely going to test that theory because I made a big ol' mess. Now, once I get to the skate, I really could use a few more colors. Like, can I get a gray or a pink maybe? We'll just have to make do. Also, the instructions say to tap underneath the design after combing it, but I kind of forgot to do that after this design. Whoops. Combing through this is kind of fun though. It's like stirring a really tiny soup. Alright, now even though these aren't as crisp as I'd like, they are pretty fun to do. So I'm going to set these aside for a day or two and let them dry. And here's how they came out looking. There are definitely spots where you can see the paint over the leading, so that was a lie. And I can see where I must not have gotten the paint on the leading enough, so this must be a light hole. Next, for the rainbow, I want to try something a bit more advanced. Slightly. Anyway, since I only have red, yellow, green, and blue, I don't have the full rainbow. But I saw in the instructions, or on a blog somewhere, that you can mix the colors by combing them together. So I'm going to start with mostly red on this first stripe and leave a little space here because I'm going to add a tiny little line of yellow. And then I'm going to comb it together to make orange. I'm trying to be sort of slow and cautious in my swirly toothpicking because I want to mix enough to fully make an orange, but I also need to leave a whole red stripe. This might have been easier if I did it in 2 separate steps, like letting the red dry overnight and then going in with the red-yellow and mixing it, but I didn't want to wait that long. Also, this isn't my favorite shade of orange, but at least I was able to make an orange. Yellow and green I have already. And then for the last stripe, I have blue, but I need to make a purple by adding a little bit of red. And then mixing it to make a terrible muddy purple. Ugh. I think part of the trouble doing it this way is that I really have limited space, so I can't adjust the color once the paint is in there. If I add any more paint, it might overflow, so I'm just kind of stuck with whatever color it ends up as. So we're going to set that aside to dry and work on this disco ball. I'm going to do that disco ball arty thing where every square is a different color. So I'm going to use all of the colors that I have, except brown, and mix them in different amounts in little sections to try and make a bunch of different shades. Essentially, I'm just making a giant mess. And after drying, on the rainbow there's a few light holes. The purple is awful, and you can barely see the difference between the red and the orange. Also, I didn't fill in this area down here because I couldn't think of what to do with it. So it's kind of just there for moral support. Now, the disco ball looks just as messy as I thought. Some of the color mixes are questionable at best, and there's quite a few of those light holes. Not my best work. Alright, let's work on this dog and cat. Let me just trim up a few of the messes. And then we're going to fill these in. These stencils are pretty simple, but they're actually pretty fun and relaxing to do. I bet kids would love to do these. This cat looks so angry. Okay, after it dried, the brown dried way darker than I expected and kind of uneven. And I think this cat's nose might be in danger of falling off. But moment of truth time, let's see if these designs actually come off. They are on there pretty good, and it does kind of feel like you're going to ruin it at first, but once I found a good corner, they peeled off so easily. It actually kind of reminds me of peeling a fruit roll-up. However, peeling the designs off of the wax paper was not easy at all. It did peel up eventually, but it also seemed to take the coating off of the paper with it, so I'm not actually sure that it's going to even stick to anything. It also ripped the paper in a few spots, so wax paper is definitely not recommended. Let's see if they actually stick to the window. Yep, and these look pretty good. And they peeled off pretty easily when I was done. Now, the wax ones tried to convince me that they were going to stick, but then they didn't. I tried a few more times, but they really just don't have any grip with that wax coating on them. But if you turn them around and put what was the top against the window, they stick great. So do with that information what you will. Okay, so now you know what we need to do. We need to try to make our own designs. I'll start with a nice perfect circle, add some hills, and a sun in the sky. Yeah, this is going to be a landscape. I love me a good landscape. And the letting part was crazy easy. Then, over here, I'm going to do a cute little monster. I wanted to see how detailed I was able to make it, but this might actually be a little too intricate. The sketch is really cute, but so far, he's looking a little crazy behind the eyes. To paint these in, I wasn't satisfied with the 6 colors I had, so I bought a bunch more. I did get some duplicates, but now we also have black onyx, frost root beer, lavender, blue diamond, turquoise, aqua shimmer, emerald green, green shimmer, rosy pink, magenta rose, pumpkin orange, citrus yellow, crystal clear, and clear frost. Now, starting with the landscape, I'm going to do some stripes with different colors in a sort of sunset-y scheme. Then I use the toothpick to swirl it and sort of mix the colors a little bit. It's not going to be a blend, but more a swirl, so hopefully it'll look cool. Hopefully. I'm not so sure about it so far. Now, for the monster, I really want to go green, but I do a lot of greeny blue monsters. So let's use green, but only in small spots. Then I don't know if it's gonna work, but I'm gonna try to make little toe and finger beans in green and then go around them with the fur color later. I used some of those shimmers in green on his horns and blue in his eyes because I really want to see what a shimmer looks like. Then the rest of his fur is going to be purple. I did the hands and feet last because I really needed to work up my courage and focus to be really careful. And for good reason, because I immediately messed it up. Whoops. I did attempt to fix it, but we're just gonna have to wait until it dries to see if it actually worked. Well, he's looking kind of uneven, and the hands look kinda. They aren't too bad. And I can see the glitters and the shimmers. The landscape is looking sort of pretty-ish. I mean, that pink came out really red, and the swirls are giving flame vibes. So this might be a landscape south of us. But let's just peel these off. Ooh, that peels off way easier from the Ziploc bag. Not really sure about this landscape. The purple just sort of blends into the black. And this monster kind of looks a little diseased when the light hits him. So, final thoughts. For a quick little project, I actually really liked making these. I could totally see kids having a great time with this, or I might even do more of these myself, if I make sure to keep the designs really simple and not stress about perfection. Actually, I probably better do more of these since I have so much paint now. So, what do you think? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.